ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
With the Middle East heaving a sigh of relief after what appears to be a fragile peace after Operation Rising Lion, Operation True Promise 3, Operation Midnight Hammer, depends on which side of the news you have been reading. After what President Donald Trump calls the 12-day war, we are here to discuss the aftermath of the Israel-Iran conflict with US participation. And to discuss this, we are privileged to have Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, former GOC 14 Corps. He presently holds the General Bipin Rawat Chair of Excellence at USI. He's a distinguished fellow at Vivekanand International Foundation, and he's in the Executive Council body of IDSA. Welcome to Samvad, sir.
Thank you, Mayank. It's always been a pleasure to come back to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, according to President Donald Trump, the Iranian nuclear sites at Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow were completely and totally obliterated. His words, not mine. General Dan Caine, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, he says that the initial assessments showed all 3 sites sustained severe damage and destruction. Rafael Grassi, who is the Director General at IAEA, now he says that Iran had informed him that they would be taking protective and preventive measures for enriched uranium at their nuclear facilities. Now it is being assumed that Iran covertly shifted around 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium to undisclosed sites, but it is presumed that it is somewhere near Isfahan and some underground facilities. Now, it is just an assumption. Now, Donald Trump gets very angry at all this. He reiterates that it's totally obliterated. Now, Grassi says that the nuclear program has been set back significantly. Jerusalem Post, it says that the enrichment program has been delayed by a few months. Now, I was reading this tweet from Rubio, sir, and he says that it has been pushed back by a few months. I mean, I'll quote it exactly rather than being very iffy about it. So he says, and I quote him, "At the end of the day, Iran has less capacity today than they did just a week ago to rapidly produce a nuclear weapon behind the world's back and threaten the world." Now, it is all very fog of war, so not very clear. So what is your assessment about this decapitation of the Iranian nuclear program?
Thank you, Mayank. It's a very valid question, and a question that is exercising most minds all over the world. Now, let me put it this way, that, we have seen political activity, geopolitics throughout our life. The fact is that the politicians speak a different language, and the military people who actually go through it speak a different language. It is part of the culture of the people there. Now, when President Trump, without a bomb damage assessment, immediately after the strikes took place, had said that the sites have been obliterated, the word he used, obliterated. 6-7 hours later, the first press conference taken by the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman Joint Chief of Staff. The Chairman Joint Chief of Staff was very professional, extremely professional and very clear. And he said that, there will be bomb damage assessment being done. Now, in American system, the bomb damage assessment is done by varied people. But the responsibility is given to intelligence agencies. It is not the task of the Air Force to assess. So the CIA and other agencies assess as to what is the damage being done here. That's one part of the story. So what the politician says, obliterated, does not actually be taken as the face value that it has been obliterated. The military people said, okay, we actually what they started to do, they did. So from them, for their issue is they're outcome based. When they say they're outcome based. So when they're outcome based, they come to think, okay, we wanted to strike both sides of the hill. We wanted to strike 6 MOPs here, 6 MOPs here. The first 2 making the hole, the rest going inside those holes. So it has actually taken place exactly as they thought it would take place. And one of these sites that you see a visual now, where they tested MOP earlier on a culvert, a thick culvert, and you see the MOP dropping down and how it pierces through and went down and blasted the area. So they had actually tested it. It takes 15 years. 15 years, and they have been studying Fordow for 15 years. Americans, they say so. There are people specialists in this game who know exactly how it was being built, so they know it. Now, the first part is that they achieved what they wanted to achieve militarily, and one must salute the kind of military prowess that the Americans have shown. Second issue is here that you see, the Americans and the Iranians were talking over the last few months. We know their discussion was on, and President Trump, even last month when he came to Saudi Arabia, he said, "I don't like war, and I don't want wars to take place." Remember when he became president, he said, "I will finish that war in 24 hours, Ukraine war, and then finish Gaza." He's not been able to do so. So he is a business entity. He is not a warring person. So it seems. So point I want to raise is that there could be a choreographed event. The whole thing could have been choreographed and well planned. The Americans and Iranians were in touch. So, you could have said, okay, the hit is coming. So 2 weeks were given, but the hit is coming. So the Iranians have been able to remove entire fissile material that they had created, 400 kgs, 60% enrichment, which they're talking about, or part of it. They couldn't have removed the centrifuges. The centrifuges cannot be dismantled, and it cannot be put again. So it can't be. So the centrifuges are there, but the fissile material, they could have had a warning and they could have removed. Now, the other part of the story is that the Iranians subsequently hit Qatar and Iraq, the American bases, for which President Trump himself had said that they had informed us beforehand, the Iranians, that we are going to hit these 2 bases, and the Americans were ready and they were destroyed. So they intercepted the incoming missiles. So this choreographed response is nothing new. It is part and parcel of the geopolitics. Even the worst of times in Cold War and worst of time in wars, the intelligence agencies always retain a contact with each other so that there can be a way found out for de-escalation. It is a तरीका. एक तरीका है कि de-escalate कैसे किया जाए. तो तरीका यह है कि भाई हमने तो मारना है आपको. We will come and hit you, but you be prepared that we come to hit you. Then we know that you're going to hit us. So you tell us when you're going to hit us, so we are prepared for it. So both the public and the media of both sides get happier. Okay, look, yesterday's speech, if you see Ayatollah's speech, was very interesting. He said we gave a tight slap to Americans. We know that the missiles that the Iranians had launched did not land up in Qatar or in Iraq, where they were being hit. But his public opinion, he conveyed to public opinion that we were able to slap the Americans like this. So, it takes a different hue. So my good guesswork is that there is much behind the scenes happening, which is not available to us. And we are commenting on what is evident. What is evident, maybe a small part of which is evident. The actual truth is being hidden, and things are happening on a different plane. My view, Mayor.
So, satellite images. I mean, I'll take this a bit further, this choreography bit, sir. Satellite images from Maxar technology, they captured vehicular activities at Fordow in the days leading up to the US strikes, including a line of cargo trucks parked outside the nuclear facility. Hassan Abedini, Deputy Political Director for Iran's state broadcaster, has said that Iran didn't suffer a major blow because the materials had already been taken out. Now, my thing is that Sir, Netanyahu and Israel started from the premise of destroying, because the nuclear thing was existential for them. So they started out from that premise that we'll be taking out the nuclear facilities. And obviously, enriched uranium is part of that facility. Now, the Israeli Air Force was ruling over the Iranian skies, or so they tell us. Now, all these vehicles parked outside, obviously moving, satellite images, US assistance, everything at their disposal, yet it happens. So what did, what did Israel gain from all this? How did they allow this to go unchallenged?
The best person to answer your question is, after 5 years, historians who will study this 12-day war, and they will say, what is the outcome? What were the objectives and what is the outcome? It is typical of historians to study it and say, okay, the outcome was elate. Today, everybody is full of euphoria. Okay, we were able to do A, B, C, D. But let's read into what's being said. Yesterday, again, President Trump in NATO said the Iranians hit Israelis badly, very badly. He says, I'm just saying. And he says that there were grave damage being done. So, if you follow what Israelis did in last year, if you recollect, in the month of April and October, twice they struck Iranians. What Iranians responded back to Israel was largely ineffective, because the Iranians, the AD envelope that Israel had, including effort from Jordan and the carrier fleets of Americans, Iran was not hit. So they had a little confidence that nothing will happen to us. So they went across with an objective, okay, we will be able to destroy the nuclear facilities, all three of them. They knew, see, in the 12-day war, in the first 8 days, they said, okay, we have hit Natanz and Isfahan and also Fordow, but knowing very well that they couldn't have done anything, they were buried well deep inside. So finally, the Americans had to do that. But having said that, the response that the Iranians gave, despite the best AD envelope in the world, 40% of their missiles were able to get through the cover of the AD envelope in Israel and hit Israel. And they were hitting cities, Haifa, Tel Aviv, and many other places. So, and then there is a limit to how much of weaponry a nation can possess. How many interceptors would Israel have left for next lot of missiles, when we know Iran has still got 1,000 to 1,500 missiles left with them? They knew that ज़्यादा नहीं चल सकता है. There are not many interceptors left to intercept the incoming missiles. The next ones coming will cause graver and graver damage. So the outcome, the point is that when a politician says, okay, I want this thing done, that end state or end game that the politician won is translated by the military people into an end state. The end state saying you destroy A, B, C, D with minimum destruction to us. In the course of a war, things change in the fog of war. Things obviously change in this fog of war. So they must have been a changed end state, an end game. Let's change over. So they changed over. They said, now get the Americans to bomb it and finish this war, because we are ourselves being hurt. The entire country, which is a liberal country, has been pushed underground in the basements. How long the Israelis, people who enjoy the beaches and the malls and can remain in the basement? Ek din, आधा घंटा, 2 घंटे, 6 घंटे, but you can't say 12 days you're in the basement. It can't be done. So there was a need to finish the war. Whether you achieve the aims, not to achieve the aims, the Americans were required, for which the Americans were called. Second part. Yesterday, again, I'm quoting because, we see, everybody is lying. Everybody is fake. There is no truth coming out. We are just trying to analyze based on whatever things you can sniff out. And, so to say that I know exactly what happened, I don't know. I'm just analyzing based on what is said. So yesterday, a correspondent asked Pete Hexeth and also the chairman that we saw those 14 vehicles that we are referring to. which came 2 days prior in Fordow, which was seen by Maxar Technologies, and those vehicles had come probably for the purpose of picking up the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah.
So you think the uranium has gone away from Fordow 2 days earlier? It's a logical question. You're asking that question was asked to the Secretary of Defense in a press conference yesterday. Now, 2-3 times this question came up. Every time the answer was non-categoric. Clearly, it was not said, no, they did not take the side material from there. The vehicles would have come for a different purpose. Simple answer, eh? You say, no, it has not been done. But it has not been answered in that clear, categoric manner. It was, I would say, wishy-washy answers. So suffice it to say that at this juncture, nobody knows how much fissile material was left inside, how much had been taken out. The Ayatollah yesterday said, "Humne nikal diya sab," which of course Ayatollah is saying his own, for his public consumption. So I would put my nose in to say all 400 kgs has gone away. I wouldn't even say all half is left and half is gone. Actually 400 kgs, they said 10 कारें हो ना, तो 10 कार के बूट में आ जाएगा 400 kgs. उसमें 14 गाड़ियों की जरूरत नहीं है वहां पे. So something else is happening there. But in any case, they have additional sites and they have additional places. कोई Salah बोलता है, some other places are being spoken of, where they could have moved some stuff from Fordow and from other places when they knew things are going to come. And this kind of strike, the whole huge facility can become a tomb. Makbara ban jayega. It will be sold. So nothing can be retrieved from there. Now to retrieve it will become very difficult. So the understanding that it will become a tomb, everybody knew that there's a 30 kg bomb which will come and drop on them, pure steel with 2,500 pounds of explosive, and it will blast it away. Any country who has his heart inside that site will try and remove their heart and protect it. So my good guess is that the Iranians would, if intelligence there, 6,000-year-old civilization, they would have planned to move something out from there. And I don't think we'll get the right answers for a very long time. Though the CIA's initial preliminary report was a little weak. I mean, it did not say that damage has been done. Subsequent reports have been saying, okay, they have had information from reliable sources in Iran saying that grave damage has to be done. Yeah, this kind of huge bombs coming, usko to tomb bana hi diya na, andar jo tha wo to bhai gaya. It is not sealed now, gone. The fact is, what about what has been taken out? That can't say. Maybe history will tell us in future. Today, I don't think anybody can point a finger at this.
Sir, the more I listen to you and the more I see lots of information being floating around on social media, even from Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, all those people also is very ambiguous. At times it looks like, sir, what you said choreography, it looks like a theater, sir. Everybody is playing a part and just a role, nothing more than that.
So it happens this way. This is typical of, you actually saying what I wanted to say. There is all fakery. There is all kind of information warfare going on. You can't sift what is truth. Half truth mixed with some lies become a truth. So, you don't know what is the truth. We just accept what is being told to us and we pick up our news and say, okay, yes, such hai. But the such is nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Sir, Israel, when it started, Netanyahu, he said Operation Rising Lion, that because of he basically spoke of the nuclear angle and reminded people of the Holocaust and said that we will not suffer another nuclear Holocaust. Then the proxies, and then we see this, a sort of a stalemate where even if truth appears, and if the whole thing is also truth, it appears to be a stalemate. So is Israel safer today than it was on the 6th of October 2023?
Again, a very difficult question. But I'll say that one thing Iran would understand, that the Americans have the capacity to hit them at the place of their choosing with a force that you just cannot imagine. So one part of the story is that it is gone. And and then maybe these centrifuges, those, the cascade of centrifuges have gone away. And, there have been a grave amount of damage done. So that is one part is. Now, to the second part of your question is, would that mean that Iranians hereafter cannot produce a nuclear bomb, which is the aim which Israelis put to themselves? Now, any country who is to face an onslaught which is likely from the United States, the might of the force of United States, well understands that, wherever they hit, they're going to hit hard because it's a message being conveyed and it won't be able to retrieve it. So whether do the Iranians have another facility where centrifuges can be built, maybe little time, or can they construct more centrifuges in some other part of their spinal, the mountain range that they've got, and they are planning to say, okay, ye fail hoga to kuch aur ko. I think it's well nigh possible. I think it is possible that Iran has planned for some other facility where centrifuges can be made, and where, despite all missile sites being hit by Israelis, you were still able to fire so many missiles across to Israel. So, the fact is that they have some facility to make missiles, and they ballistic missiles. They have facilities to launchers to be kept in safe areas which they could not be targeted. They say only 500 all launchers destroyed. 1,000 launchers still available. I don't know the figures, but then those are launchers are available. And does Iran has the capability of producing a nuclear weapon? I think the science exists. You see, in a hierarchical organization, you kill the boss. उस बॉस का भी डेप्टी होता है, 4 डेप्टी होंगे, 4 डेप्टी के 10 डेप्टी होंगे. You kill the top man, top scientist, but there is a hierarchy of scientists, na? So you can't say everybody's been killed. The others are available. So the knowledge is not being killed. The man is being killed. The knowledge persists in the country, and whether the knowledge, because the boss man who was the best scientist having gone away, may delay the program, but it will not push it away. To answer shortly what you're asking, will Iran be able to make a nuclear bomb? I'll say yes, they would have the capability. And say they will have the capability of even now producing a nuclear device, maybe 6 months, 1 year, whatever time is possible. They would have the capability of doing it. Maybe this will be more incentive for them to do so. It may provide impetus for them to say that, okay, look, nobody touches North Korea. Why they don't touch North Korea? Because North Korea has nuclear weapons. You can't touch a country of North Korea. Nobody touches Israel because they have nuclear weapons. So Ukrainians said 1994, we shouldn't have done away with our nuclear program. Russians would not have been able to attack us. So nuclear weapons become a currency of power. It's a currency of strength and actual deterrence in many forms. And I think with the kind of things that have happened now, Iran will plan surreptitiously, quietly, to keep a bomb in the basement tank.
Sir, I'll stay with the Iranian question. Sir, after 7th October, Hamas has been virtually decapitated, sir. It's functional. Hezbollah is gone, virtually gone. Lebanon gone, Syria gone. Lebanon in the sense that Hezbollah is no longer in power, Syria gone. So Iran has suffered damage. 14 nuclear scientists killed this time around, IRGC commanders killed. So I'm just trying to gauge as to, and Iran has basically failed, from what we have in front of us, sir, not the choreographed part, what we see basically maybe, is that Iran has failed to walk the military talk. So where does the Iranian regime, particularly the Ayatollah, because Iranian regime is the Ayatollah regime, where does it stand today?
Okay. Now, you see, we have known Iran for a very long time. We are a civilizational country as Iran is. They're Persians, 6,000 years old. They are a proud race. Even before they say they are Islamic, they say we are Persians. So it's a very proud country. And but let me put it this way. Iran cannot be called a monolithic country. They are largely Shiite dispensation. But then the other part is that there are Kurds there, substantial numbers. There are There is a state called South Azerbaijan, where people of Azerbaijan origin. One state in Iran is called South Azerbaijan. There is also Baluchistan, Sistan, Baluchistan, the Baluchis people. So it's not a monolithic country. It's also got youth, which is now aware thanks to internet and social media of what's happening in the world, and how much they're suffering because of the sanctions that the Israel. So it's not a monolithic country, and any country of this kind would have voices of discontent. There would be people who would be opposed to the current regime, who may want to enjoy the fruits of the development that has taken place worldwide. Many would have traveled across to the Middle East and see what Dubai is like or Abu Dhabi is like. So, Iran is also a very rich country. The largest reserves of gas here, and petrol. So, what happens is that they are the ports rest with them. So anybody from Central Asia has to come down to Iran, from Caspian to come down to Iran. Armenia, they have west of relationship. So Iran is a hidden. That discontent, when a war of this starts, then the discontentment that people would have against the Islamic Republic would thereafter get subsided, because there is very big countries and long-drawn enemies, American and Israelis, who are fighting a war with them. So the nationalism grows. So the nationalism grows. That issue of discontentment against the regime goes background. It is not important. So, for quite some time, because of this war, I would presume that the regime of Ayatollah, who's an old man, 86 years old, has been solidified in some form, and they is able to regime. So to talk that if the aim of the war was twofold, one is to destroy the nuclear weapons, and second is a regime change, which Mr. Netanyahu said so also. Regime change is one of the issues. Then, in the second part also, regime change, I would say the success story cannot be taken for granted. I don't think that there is a likelihood. See, they have been hobnobbing with the Raza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran's son and grandson. All that hobnobbing that Israel and many countries have been doing. But I would say that I don't think doesn't have following inside Iran. I don't think there will be an immediate change. So to say that they were hoping a color revolution will take place or something like Maidan revolution will take place, that is now not possible, because the country would have rallied nationalistically with the regime.
And Pahlavi story is a very long story. So 79, they fled. I don't think people remember them properly, the new generation. Moving on to a very prime actor, the biggest actor on stage, Donald Trump. Now, would you say that after this midnight hammer, what the US Air Force did, Trump has re-established, and I'll use the word re-established US deterrence, because in the past few years it was going down a bit. Re-established US deterrence, and is his erratic behavior, what appears to be a very erratic behavior, a camouflage for a deliberate and a planned behavior? I would like to have your assessment on this.
So I think what President Trump did might look different to us, but so-called the theory of bombs for peace is nothing new for the Americans. They have used bombs for peace in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They used bombs for peace against Serbia and Kosovo in the 2.5-month war. They had bombs for peace in Vietnam. I mean, just to get peace, they bombed the whole country out, and Afghanistan. So it is one more continuation of the 7-decade policy of Americans that you want to get peace, you bomb the hell out of that country. So there is an attempt for bombing to peace, which is a continuation of a foreign policy perspectives of the United States from Hiroshima, Nagasaki onwards, and we can keep quoting this. One. Second, now, does it mean that there is a change? See, finally, the larger policies of President Trump and why he got elected, MAGA and all that, was only related to economic rise of the country, where the country has got 36 trillion debt and all that, there are major problems around. And so to say that he is change the colors and become more warmongering or forceful of this kind? I don't think so. There was a requirement of doing one major operation. It's not that he may not do one more operation after 6 months somewhere else or something. But the fact is that his focus and his speeches when he took over presidency and the speeches in Saudi Arabia and many other places, he doesn't want, I don't want war. I don't want to spend so much on war. So I take that because that's on the plank on which he got elected. Now, if he got elected on that plank, then rest be assured, it is absolutely categoric that, if he keeps bombing other places and there is a change of thought process, then what happens to the foundation on which he got elected? And what happens on the foundation where, he keeps claiming that he wants peace? Yesterday also he said NATO 5%. NATO countries accepted, okay, we will do 5% of GDP and this thing. When they do it, we will see, because UK certainly can't afford 5% of GDP on defense, and many other countries won't be able to. They're also in bad state, and they only have to wait till 29 when the presidency changes. Okay, just keep increasing something and say 5% after 10 years. So, but the fact is that I think his broader policy relates to economics and trade and not on initiating wars. Because he tried to finish the Afghanistan war, he didn't like it. His statement during Vietnam war was similarly. His statement subsequently Afghanistan was same. By heart, he is not of this mode. By heart, he's more on cryptocurrencies and those kind of issues. My reading of it.
Sir. So one final assessment, and one of the players on stage which keeps a very low profile seems to be keeping itself to the background, China. Now, there seems to be reluctance on the part of the Chinese to come for the help of their allies, as they call them. So Iran is an ally, Pakistan is an ally. Beyond diplomatic, what should I say, sir? Jugglery, the words of diplomacy. I mean, they are not pushing beyond themselves, beyond that. So how do you see this reluctance? Because it wants center stage. It has been looking for center stage. But then there appears to be a reluctance to come to the forefront militarily, strategically. So how do you explain this reluctance of the Chinese?
Again, Chinese are an enigma and always been an enigma. And you're right to say that they didn't have an overt policy on all these issues. Their statements were all about exercising restraint and seeking peace, etc. But to say that the Chinese did not support Pakistanis during our time in Op Sandur is absolutely wrong. I would say that they had total support. Pakistanis couldn't have done what they wanted to do. True. Even an iota of it, in case they didn't have the support of the Yagon and the Beidou satellites, which were all repositioned and refocused to provide the assistance to Pakistan.
No, how much did they do? I correct myself on that, sir. I correct myself on that. But the Iran part.
Yeah, so Iran part. Now the Iran. How much of support did the Chinese give to Iranians? I don't know. I see. Iranians do not have the kind of satellite imagery that many other nations can boast of. They do not have the ISR required. My guesswork is that there would be covert support being given by the Chinese to Iranians. They have a much in stake, very large stakes. See, the black fleets of Iranian ships who sail out carrying oil are transshipped across for the Chinese in various parts of the world, including, say, Malaysia and other parts, where it's transshipped across to Chinese ships because there are sanctions and, their direct sale is not so very easy, though overtly also China is buying from them. But there is a trade going on between China and Iran on oil and gas, which is not evident to eyes, maybe changing over in Oman or changing over in Malaysia or somewhere else. So-called Black Fleet, for the Iranians and for the Chinese, both the countries are extremely important. And the pipelines, now in times pipelines will come through to Iran from the Central Asian things, from China to direct supply. So there is much, see, the kind of the treaties signed between Iran and China are worth reading in the course of last 2 years. So I mean say that this Iran matters to China tremendously, tremendously the word. I would also take a line here of Russia. See, Russia and Iran signed a friendship treaty this year, and the Iranians have established the Shahid factory in Russia to take Shahid drone factory, as you recollect. I think instead of making global noises, they have China and also Russia have decided to do covert support across to Iran in many ways, and their support may not be so evident, but I think it is there, and it will continue because both countries have got large dependence on each other. This is a trioca. There are interdependencies, and interdependencies cannot be wished away so easily. China has not come in. China has got also internal anxieties. See, the SEO summit has nearly gone for a skip, as you say. And the BRICS, which is going to take place in Brazil, which is very close to China. Now President Xi saying, I'm not going to BRICS, which is, I think, coming for summit, which is going next few days. So the fact is the Chinese have got internal anxieties, internal worries also economic issues, but they would be doing their bit to support Iranians in any which way that they can. And I don't think it has come to light. I can talk about Chinese support to Pakistan, which should be well chronicled as to what happened in Op Sandhur. This was not two-front war. It was one-front war with total support from the Chinese. And, I think we need to take caution into what's happening on that front.
Sir, I'll come back to you on the Pakistan-China entente very soon, sir, because this I wish to remain restricted to the Iran, Israel, and the US factor. So I'll come back to you, sir, and would like to conclude on that note itself. It's been a comprehensive, sir, such a good lesson in such a short time, sir. Thank you so much, and I'll come back to you with the China and Pakistan factor very soon, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, and
next time in Varanasi.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, sir. Definitely, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind, sir.
Bye-bye.